Hey, Mark.
James McNeil, how you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thanks. How are you doing?
This is great. I'm just hunkered down here and trying to make art.
That's right. So here we are again. I believe we're closing out week number 7 of our stay-at-home orders in Pennsylvania. What is exciting on that front, though, Mark, I think we all share, is that today, actually, some business in Pennsylvania showing signs of return. The governor has opened up some business and some folks, and I think there's going to be an announcement later today. So I think that's a really positive sign that perhaps we're getting closer to the end of whatever this moment is.
This phase of it, and most importantly, it's good that the health numbers are trending in a positive direction, and that we can start to think about what the new normal is.
That's right. So as you all know, this is our CT Live, our May 1st edition. This has become how City Theater is really tried to make sure we stay present in our community and continue the important conversations that we try to have on our stages and just obviously have not been able to do. And a couple things I wanted to share before we get into conversation. We have some terrific guests later on. But first, as we've been capturing all of this content and putting it on our website, it's been on our social media channels, over on YouTube, but we have actually consolidated it all. There is a page dedicated on our website. Nikki and Claire will be sharing that, I'm sure, in the chat. But what was really great was just sort of seeing the full array of conversations that we've been having. I found it particularly useful, Mark, today that I could check to make sure what I wore today I had not worn previously. So I'm grateful to have it all in one place. But it really has been kind of an incredible moment, I think, Mark, to sort of see all the different folks that have been reaching out in the conversations that have been having online. We added something new this week, just came out, I believe, yesterday. Our good friend, actor, playwright Sharon Washington, read a little bit from her play Feeding the Dragon, which had its world premiere at City Theater in 2016 in the Hamburg studio. That show, that production went on to Hartford stage and then off Broadway to primary stages, and it was later actually captured as an Audible production through the audible.com platform. So it was great to see Sharon again, and so grateful to her for sharing some kind words for us.
James, I just
The
want to
other,
say,
yeah,
sorry to interrupt.
no,
I just
jump
want
in,
to say
please.
how great it is because, making theater is all about community, and to have our community, both of our audiences and our artists gather around and still engage with us is so inspiring. And it really means so much to all of us that people are, that people care and that they want to contribute in whatever way they can to the sustaining power of live performance.
Yeah, and even just hearing the theme song of what we've been doing here, that Matt Schatz, shared, who wrote The Burdens, of course, last year, and you worked with so closely. It really is. It's a great reminder, and some folks got to see when Sharon. We actually had Sharon in town back early part of this year,
Right.
and we actually filmed a documentary that we did a very early sort of screening of. Wasn't fully finished yet, when my sleeping dragon woke, which was really about the process behind developing Feeding the Dragon, and it was so great to kind of go back to that time and be able to revisit that. So we look forward to bringing Sharon back in the future, but also doing a proper screening of that documentary when we can all get back together again. So
Yeah, and the making of art goes on, and
mhm,
artists are continuing to put content out there and online because that's what we
mhm,
have right now. And there's some really interesting work happening both in sort of rehearsal formats using Zoom and other medium, but also, for example, we have auditions going live. Or they're going on. It's video auditions. We're accepting video auditions from Pittsburgh-based actors now for our annual equity principal auditions through May 4th. And we're also accepting New York-based actors through our casting director, McCorkle Casting in New York, so that the artists who depend on City Theater and organizations like us for their livelihoods have an opportunity to get in front of us, to engage with us, to have conversations about the work that is upcoming.
Yeah, because the show must go on, right? So we are, whenever that is, we're going to be ready to go, and putting those processes in place so that we make sure we are keeping those conversations moving forward, and really thinking about conversations in general. Mark, I know we were talking before we went on. I mean, we're all, trying to stay open dialogue with all of our peers. I know you've been talking to, fellow artistic directors and artists you've worked with a long time, across the country. How are people doing out there? What are those conversations like? We're all squirreled away in various attics or rooms and houses. How are folks doing?
I think the arts sector is struggling like any part of the service sector, restaurants, places where people gather. We were commenting earlier today about the phrase, that we gather together to breathe the same air when we do a live performance, and that has always been considered to be a good thing, and that's the power of live performance, where we gather together with people who aren't exactly like us and share stories and breathe the same air. And now we can't do that. So the work is ongoing. What is the biggest threat, I think, is the financial insecurity that comes with this for the artists and the institutions that serve them. And there's great anxiety. There's great, their stories, individual stories are heartbreaking, and some are inspiring, the way that people are finding to get their work out there. Last week we had Schwa Potter as a guest. He's a good example of someone who is just determined to make the work happen and to find a way to monetize it. And good for him. And let's support Schwa Potter and many artists who are trying to find their voice and redefine what it means to be a performer and an artist in this time.
One of the things we talked about, you and I, about last week was, starting to figure out what does returning to the theater look like, and obviously there's going to be a whole new level of safety and protocol that goes in, and we're working on that in multiple phases. First with our staff, and what does the workplace look like, and then obviously with the audiences when they can return. One of the things I wanted to just share, and just so folks know, is that there's been behind the scenes some great conversations going on, not just with City Theater, but with all of our colleagues and peers here in Pittsburgh and nationally. And it's been really heartwarming to sort of see the collaboration that's stepped up, and how willing people are to share their ideas, their experiences, what they're learning from their markets, their local experts. And so it's been good to be part of those conversations. I look forward to those continually. They're starting to really codify here in Pittsburgh. There's discussions going on just so that different sort of sectors, the outdoor venues, the performing arts venues, the education venues, things like that, that we can all sort of break off and share and pool our resources, so that we're all on the same page about what coming back looks like and what we're going to need to do collectively. And I think those partnerships, that those are very practical, right? This is like how safety is. This is how we reopen, all those things. But then they naturally, sort of form into more creative partnerships as well. And we've already seen those sort of walls being broken down, here in Pittsburgh in particular. And I know, Mark, you wanted to talk about one other announcement, that we're thrilled to be participating with our good friends at City of Salem in one of those creative partnerships that's coming out of this tragedy.
I think that's what community is, James. It's when we are stronger together, and when we reach out to each other and support each other and contribute to the greater good, through creative thinking and partnerships that go beyond our sort of siloed institutions and ourselves. And so we're really thrilled to announce that we'll be collaborating with our longtime partner, City of Asylum, in this collective online endeavor. The Show Must Go On Line Pittsburgh is a project of City of Asylum, our region's first shared programming channel. It's a collaborative daily webcast that unites and streams programs created by Pittsburgh's arts organizations. By bringing these creative forces together, the Show Must Go On Line provides free access to high-quality programs and connects artists and audiences, and continues to build community around the arts. We're joining other organizations, including the Kelly Strayhorn Theater, Boom Concepts, River City Brass Band, many more to come. And our first program will feature the announcement of moving our Momentum Festival, our new play festival, online. We'll be joined by festival artists and get to share insight on how you make new plays in a digital medium. So that'll happen Wednesday, May 6th at 7 p.m. We're posting the link to register the comments in our comments section. And following that, we'll kick off our series with our annual Young Playwrights Festival alumni reading. This year, we'll be presenting Olivia O'Connor's Life-Changing Magic, directed by Montez Freeland. And that will be on Wednesday, May 13th. So I hope that everyone will tune in on Wednesday for more details about the upcoming events through The Show Must Go On.
What's that going to be like? I mean, that's what we're taking stage readings, our Momentum Festival, which, every year, I think this was going to be our 20th year, which would be 4 or 5 days of artist discussions, plays and workshop and development, rehearsals going on in 3 different spaces around campus. And we're taking that online in a way and working with City of Asylum to provide the platform for that. What's that going to be like for artists, do you think? Is it exciting? Is it a new challenge? It's a new frontier.
I think it's all of those things. I mean, first of all, it's a chance to gather together and do the things that we do, even in a different format that matters. There are interesting challenges, though. I mean, we're planning several world premieres next year, and several of them include music, for example.
Yeah.
And this technology, Zoom and other online technologies, don't handle the particular needs of musicians playing together simultaneously from different locations very well, because there are cancellation features of the software that keep people from talking over each other at the same time, which is what musicians do when they play together. So there are actually really innovative workarounds that people are experimenting with in order to be able to do their work in these online mediums. But more than anything, it's a chance for us to continue our work and to rehearse and to develop new work for future consumption, whenever that may be.
Yeah. Well, obviously, whenever it's a new play at City Theater, the Momentum Festival, there's one person who's always in the middle of all of that, and it's our good friend and colleague, Claire Drobot, Associate Artistic Director. Claire, do you want to come say hi to the people?
Hello to the people. Thanks, Morgan. I'm so excited about, I think momentum is one of those things that's at the heart of what City does. And so having to know that it's not possible to do that in person is definitely a blow. But to be able to work with City of Asylum and bring that online and still help writers move plays forward and bring together community, even if we're distant, means a great deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Claire, I'm going to step away. Mark, I think we're both walking away and giving the stage to you.
All right. Well, I will probably see you afterwards. But I'm actually excited to bring on another part of our Momentum Festival to welcome TJ Parker Young and Maura Harris. They are the regional representatives for the Dramatist Guild in the Pittsburgh area. So warm welcome to Maura and TJ.
Hey, thanks for having us, Claire.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for spending your Friday afternoon with us. So we're going to get to share, we do an annual event that's been a partnership with the Dramatist Guild for I think about 4 years now, called In Their Own Voices, and we're going to get to announce some of those details. But first, I just want to start off for audience members who might be watching. Can you just share a little bit about the DG regional programs and what exactly is the Dramatist Guild for folks who might not know?
Yeah, absolutely. The Dramatist Guild is unlike a union. It's actually just a collection of writers from all across the country who we've kind of banded together to create an organization that supports writers in several different ways. There's emergency funding, there is educational opportunities, there's also business affairs. So it helps writers with contracts, looking at, how do they actually get their shows up in a legal way, and they also the Dramatist Guild also helps support publications of plays as well. So it's basically an organization that supports playwrights through all steps of the processes, from the beginning of you just now starting to write your play to, hey, I have an off-Broadway premiere. What does that look like for me legally? So it's a pretty great organization to be a part of, and we're super glad to represent it here in the Pittsburgh region.
Absolutely. No, I think it means so much, the Dramatist Guild, and as well as the Dramatist Guild Foundation, which is their separate programs, but part of the same overarching umbrella, have been great partners to City throughout the year. And, I think often, so, people think, oh, theater, great. I'm thinking about New York, but can you talk a little bit about the regional programs and how the Dramatist Guild is supporting writers across the country?
Sure. The regional programs are basically, you have a representative or two in Givingtuesday, and we sort of are reporting the needs of these communities outside of New York City back to the Guild, so that it truly can be a national organization as opposed to New York centric. Here in Pittsburgh, we try to do things like small gatherings of dramatists. We did a little submissions session together. We've done presentations like in their own voices, which I guess we'll talk about in a minute. But it's really like a way for writers who can be really solitary creatures to gather and talk to each other and share ideas.
Exactly. It was just you and a laptop. There are times when it feels daunting. So it's nice to build a sense of community. And I should also add that not only are you regional representatives, but you're also both playwrights. So I'm wondering, maybe TJ, if you want to start, can you just share a little bit about your own writing and your background? What brought you to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm originally from Texas. I moved to Pittsburgh late 2017. It's funny because Maura was actually there the day that I found out I was going to move to Pittsburgh. So she's been kind of my companion the whole entire time I've been here. I moved here because my partner got a job here right after I finished grad school, and I've been here and I kind of hit the ground running thanks to Maura's help and City's help, actually. City, being a teaching artist for City was the first job I had in the city. So I'm super grateful for you guys. But yeah, I've been here just kind of plugging away since then.
Well, we're glad to call you part of the City family. And Maura, how about you? What drew you to Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I'm actually a Pittsburgh native.
Oh, that's right. Not true, you also.
Yeah,
what made you stay?
But I had actually lived a bunch of other places and come back here for my MFA at Carnegie Mellon. And then I stayed after that because I love Pittsburgh. And City Theater was actually a huge part of that for me too, because you guys threw me all these teaching artist gigs. And you did a reading of my play a couple years ago. So yeah, I've been here for the last 6 years now.
We're lucky to have you both in town, and I'm wondering if maybe you can talk as the reps for the community here. What's the playwriting community like in Pittsburgh? I think often there is this idea that playwrights have to live in New York or Los Angeles, but there is actually such a rich artistic community here that is building new work on a continual basis.
Yeah, we've actually noticed that sometimes it's even difficult for us to keep track of all the new plays that are popping up all over the place. And we're lucky enough to be in the position where at least once a year we have to sit down and ask everybody what they're doing so we can write a report about it. But we're finding that people are either finding ways to do the work by themselves, self-producing with smaller companies, with smaller venues, just getting it on their feet. And the other part of that is that we're finding that playwrights are hungry for partnerships with other organizations. That way they can have readings, that way they can have development opportunities, and just kind of build that outreach that way. And there's always, you can ask any playwright, like, what are you working on? And I promise you, you won't hear the same project that they're working on 3 months ago. So there's always this churn of creative energy in the playwrights here. And we're happy to kind of help funnel that in the places that we can.
Yeah, and I think Pittsburgh has like a real voice of its own, and I don't just mean like the Yinzer accent. I feel like people read plays once they've heard Pittsburghers talk, and like you can kind of hear that in the dialogue, and also just that it's not about a studio apartment in New York City. It's about a row house and
No, I think that's perfect. And speaking of collaborations, In Their Own Voices is something that we started a couple of years ago, and there are different iterations of something like this, like kind of a playwright slam that have happened in Pittsburgh. But City as a theater that is dedicated to new work, it's a way for us to bring in playwrights and bring them into our stages and also help build community around it. So the event features writers reading their own work out loud. So this is something that I believe used to actually happen at the O'Neill and several other organizations, where the initial rehearsal would be a playwright reading their entire script. So you could hear the voices and the way that the playwright heard them. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about the event, especially since both of you have participated in it as playwrights. So what is In Their Own Voices like?
Yeah, so In Their Own Voices, the playwright gets about 5 minutes to read a section of their play, like you said, in their own voice. And it's actually, it's a great experience as a playwright, because usually when we hear, okay, we have to read it by ourselves, we tend to want to lean towards the monologues or
Right.
things like that. But we always kind of encourage, say, hey, no, dig into the dialogue, dig into the moments that you want to hear out loud. And for me, it was actually really beneficial, because for the first time, I was able to hear and get reactions for the super complicated piece that I was able to just finish this past December, right? And that was 2 years ago, right? But it was a really monumental learning experience as far as me and my process goes, because plays aren't meant to live on the page; they're meant to be heard out loud and reacted to. So being able to remove that level of filter between playwright, actor, and then audience member is also really helpful for the playwright.
Yeah, I think a special treat for the audience. It's not something you don't often think of. What does it sound like in a writer's head, and then how does it get translated into production?
We like to hide. We like to hide.
Exactly, right? I'm behind the scenes. Any thoughts from you?
Gonna say that it's just a nice spotlight on the playwright as well. I don't tend to get up in front of people a ton and talk, unless I'm being forced to in a talkback or something. So kind of challenging yourself to read something as an actor would, and put yourself out there as an actor would, I think is just a really good lesson or experience to go through as a playwright.
And it helps people connect the idea to the person writing the idea, which also just helps bridge connections, because 2 years later, someone might be like, hey, I heard you read that part from your play In Their Own Voices. What's happening with that, right? So they can kind of go to the source for the information.
Exactly.
I'm excited about this online version, because it's In Their Own Voices, in their own houses. I feel like it's even more of a spotlight on the playwrights.
Well, I mean, I think that was actually my next question, and then we'll get to share some of our writers and kind of a little bit about. So this will be released over the course of the month of May. But what is it like to do this digitally? Maybe we can talk a little bit about kind of how we conceive this and what audiences will be able to see from between now and June.
Yeah, we're going to feature each writer kind of individually before it happens in one big event, and they kind of go back to back to back to back to back. But now we'll be able to, Maura and I are going to cut together a little intro video for each writer, and you'll have the ability to kind of watch and then rewatch, if you want to, each writer read their piece, so that way you have the opportunity to actually kind of hey, I really like that part, and dig in a bit more, which I think is great, because that also gives the writer an opportunity and something that they can share outside of the City Theater space as well. So it just expands the reach even more.
So we're so excited to sort of go on this brave new adventure. I think we're all trying to figure out, how when we can't gather in place, how does this theater continue on? And so being able to share a sneak peek into different writing processes feels like we're absolutely serving that community. So I guess if you're ready, should we announce some of our writers for this year?
Yeah, let's do it.
So I'll leave it. I feel like I'll leave it to you two, or I can. We can do it in a choral reading.
We didn't rehearse this. Yeah. So I have the list here. We have Brandy and Carrie.
We have Jordan and Zion Jackson.
Who I should add Jordan is an alumni of our Young Playwrights Festival. So we're excited to get to show writers in every stage of their career.
Peter Zaragoza Mashel.
We have Michael McGovern.
Judy Meister.
Jared Pascal.
Molly Rice.
And Rob Zellers.
And we'll also have a few more surprises to come. So that'll be rolling out over the course of May. And each writer will have an introduction from Maura and TJ. So you'll get a little window into what you're about to hear, as well as to get to know their specific bios. So Maura and TJ, thank you so much for joining us today. If audience members are curious about learning more about the Dramatist Guild, how can they access more information?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about the local guild, if you actually look for our Facebook group, which is the Pittsburgh Dramatist Guild, Maura and I are on there all the time interacting and commenting. If you want to learn how to join, you can contact us or you can visit the Dramatist Guild online. And if you are a playwright, they also have submission opportunities there as well. They're specific to the Dramatist Guild and Dramatist Guild members, so it's always good to have. And that is probably the best way to get in touch with us. Just throw up a flare and we'll come running.
That's excellent. Well, I hope that this brings even more writers into our community. And thank you both so much for joining us today. We're really excited and grateful for this partnership and to get to introduce some new writers to our audiences. So I will get to see both of you soon.
Absolutely.
Thanks.
Bye.
Can't wait. Bye.
And now I'm going to bring on my colleague, Diane Dersma, City's Development Officer in Community Giving. We do a segment every week where we get to share something good that's going on in Pittsburgh. So Di, if you want to come on and join me, we'll get to close out our show. And I hope to our audiences who are watching, thank you. And if you have any questions or follow-ups, we can get you information from TJ and Maura. Hi, Di, how are you? You're good. We can hear you.
Okay. Okay, great.
How's it going? How's your Friday?
It's great. It's great. How's yours?
Doing all right. I feel like we're getting better at the live streaming. This is, reasons that I couldn't work in broadcast news. But as we laugh, I know that you're here to share some good things going on in the city of Pittsburgh with us. So I'll turn the floor over to you.
Oh, thanks. So I am here to talk to you about Givingtuesday. So you've probably seen a lot of ads on Facebook, on television, in national magazines about this initiative. So Givingtuesday started in 2012 as a simple idea to encourage people to do good, and now, 7 years later, it has grown into a global movement that inspires millions to give, to collaborate, to celebrate generosity. So right here in Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh Magazine hosts a day also on May 5th. And these are special initiatives that are happening now and will also happen again in November, which is December, which is the normal time of giving back, around Thanksgiving and, doing good in your community, right where it matters most. So Pittsburgh Magazine is hosting this day called Give Big Pittsburgh. And these fundraising efforts support the nonprofits that are providing essential services to those directly affected by the disease, and also to the organizations whose operations have been disrupted due to the economic shutdown deployed to fight the pandemic. So on this day, you are encouraged to use your individual power of generosity to remain connected to your community and to heal. And we all know that art heals. And now more than ever, artists are depending on us to help. We have to be here today so that we can be there tomorrow, so that they can continue to develop as playwrights, to write, and the actors to continue to perform. And that helps everyone's lives heal. To be enriched by experiences written by creative, diverse, and vital voices. You know, this crisis has forced all of us to make challenging decisions of where best our philanthropic funds are needed most. So to donate on the day of giving, you simply go to givepittsburgh.com and you register, and you can do your donation there. Or if you have a specific nonprofit, you go right to their website, and on their websites are, you know, donate buttons and stories about Day of Giving. So it will help direct you right to where you go. You know, every dollar counts, whether you give $5, $10, or $500. It does make a difference. And Pittsburgh people are very generous.
That's
You
very
know,
true.
yeah, City Theater, we have an 88% donor retention rate. Nationally, the retention rate is 50%. So right there tells you, just in our own organization, how loyal our donors are and committed to the new work that we produce.
No, I mean, I think it's so amazing and so important that we can build community and that we can support all of the organizations doing fantastic work in Pittsburgh. So to have a collective day to call for that action is really important. And James, welcome back. We wanted, no, you had to share actually some of the organizations that have been working to support us in this time, because Pittsburgh's foundation community is just truly amazing, and we wouldn't be able to even be live streaming right now without their help.
That's right, Claire. And I just want to say also, Diane, I mean, you know this, you're on the front lines of really talking with our donors, and the response from our individuals since the middle of March has not wavered at all. And we've had such generosity come from so many different corners of our network. People have increased their gifts when they've been able to, and it's just meant so much, because we know everyone is feeling a lot of pressure from this. It's a tenuous time. Lives have been impacted, and so we're of course incredibly grateful for that. And to echo what you were saying, Di, going into this next giving phase, you know, our priorities really are with our community, whatever that means, and whoever that is for you, those medical workers on the front lines, the essential workers. You know, it really is just, what can we do to come together? So thank you, Diane. I know you spend every morning talking to our donors and having long conversations. I think you said to me that it's like fundraising in the old days, right? Just getting on the phone and talking to people. Right. And you do that so well, and we're just so grateful to your service to this community, but also to the donors and the individuals out there. Claire, as you mentioned, I think we've seen this in the news. I mean, we're very lucky in Pittsburgh. The foundation community here is second to none in this country, and it has been inspiring, frankly, to have conversations with the program officers over these last 7 or 8 weeks, and their willingness to sort of just listen, to absorb the information that we've been providing them, and their willingness to act and really step up. And those are program officers, those are leaders of those foundations, and it's the boards of those foundations. And there's a whole bunch of programs that are rolling out in response to the COVID-19 crisis. And at City Theater, I just wanted to take this moment, since Diane was talking about community and giving, to acknowledge the foundations that have already stepped up for City Theater in particular. We're incredibly grateful, of course, to the Pittsburgh Foundation, the Richard King Mellon Foundation, the Opportunity Fund, and the Venturous Theater Fund of the Tides Foundation, as well as a very generous grant from an anonymous foundation. All of that in response to City Theater's particular situation during all this. And also all of them are supporting so many different groups, both in the arts and cultural sector, but in the social services as well. We will get through this, and we will get through this because of their leadership and their generosity. And we're just incredibly grateful. So I just wanted to make sure we closed out on that as well, and thank them all, and echo everything Diane said. I hope we can all come together in the month ahead and really support our community, because we all need it, and there's so much good that's happening out there.
And I'm excited that we can highlight that, and just incredibly grateful also for both of you as colleagues. So to all of our listeners, just a big thank you. I should say viewers, a big thank you for tuning in today. Please continue to leave any questions for you, and our amazing marketing director Nikki Battisilli will be posting links to all of the things we discussed today in this chat, and we'll also be sharing this on YouTube. Just a couple of reminders for you. First of all, to thank Maura and TJ. We're excited to share in their own voices, which will be posted on all of City's digital channels throughout the course of May. And then we hope you will join us for our very first test out of The Show Must Go Online in partnership with City of Asylum next Wednesday. That's May 6th. That'll be live at 7 p.m. And then we'll be back doing our weekly Friday CT Live. And please leave us a message in the comments to let us know what guests you'd like to see and what stories you'd like us to cover. So that will all sign off. Wishing you a wonderful weekend, and health and happiness to everyone who's watching and everyone in the Pittsburgh community. Bye all.
Bye-bye.